Namah Shri Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Swamine Tapaharine. Pranams to all. We'll continue our discussion. We started yesterday the discussion on a very important sloka and concepts. Because again, I want to remind that this is the key, the theoretical foundation of Ayurveda. Maharshayaste dadrishuhu yathavat jnana chakshusha samanyam cha vishesham cha gunan dravyani karma cha samavayam cha yatnyatva tantroktam vidhi masthitaha. So by knowing these 6 padarthas, only they were able to get the tantroktam vidhi. They were able to follow the tantrokta vidhi. So it is very important that we understand these concepts very deeply, because the entire theoretical foundation of Ayurveda is based on these Samanya Vishesh Dravya Guna Karma Siddhantas. So we will be spending some time. First we will do an overview, then again come back to this verse. That is how it needs to be studied. So every time we revisit it, we can get deeper meanings, understand more about its applications, and then it lays the foundation for studying the rest of the Samhita. So let me share the screen. I hope it's visible. So yesterday we discussed Sarvada Sarvabhavanam Samanyam Vruddhi Karanam Hrasa Hetur Visheshascha Pravrittirubhayasya tu. So 3 nirvachanas are given for Samanya and Vishesha. And the first of which we understood yesterday, Sarvada Sarvabhavanam, so that when you are taking any substance, when you are getting exposed to anything, it could be sunlight, it could be drinking water, it could be sleeping, the impact on the body is both Samanya and Vishesha. What we are doing is increasing certain things and decreasing. It is similar to certain bhavas in the body and dissimilar or antagonistic to certain bhavas in the body. So life is, we could say from an Ayurvedic point of view, it's a great balancing act. Samatvam yoga uchyate. So how do we balance ourselves in this world? We need a very deep knowledge of Samanya Vishesha, so that we don't go out of proportion. So for this we need the guna, dravya guna karma understanding in terms of Samanya Vishesha and Samavaya, so that we can use the substances in the world in a wholesome, healthy manner. So the very most important point that we discussed here is pravrittirubhayasya tu. Both Samanya and Vishesha operate simultaneously. Both of them operate simultaneously. So we looked at certain examples like milk increasing kapha but decreasing vata and pitta. If you take tamarind, it increases pitta and kapha decreases vata. So every substance is samanya to something and vishesha to the other. And looking at the given condition of the body, we have to create a combination of substances that will keep what is normal normal, it will increase what has decreased, and it will decrease what has increased. This is the whole operational plan of Ayurveda. Keep what is normal within normal limits, decrease what has increased, and increased what has decreased. This is living life with awareness. Even when you eat your food, Ayurveda says you should have this awareness. When before I'm eating food, I must be able to do a self-assessment, say, okay, in my body, these components have increased, these components have decreased, and these components are in normal states. So if my hemoglobin is already normal, I don't need to use more iron tablets or iron-rich foods. It is not of any use. Then the body may have to spend more energy excreting the unwanted excess amount, or it may lead to an increase of that particular component. So if in my body there is already a lot of fat, then I must make sure I don't use substances that will further increase it. On the other hand, I must make use of substances that will bring it back to normal. But if my muscle is very weak, wasted, there is a chaya. So every substance in the body has three states: vriddhi, chaya, and sama. Three avasthas are there. Keeping samadhatu in samavastha. So all the components of the body are called as dhatus. So dhatus are fluctuating because of climate, because of our habits, activity, because of the imbalanced food that we take. Time and again, there is an imbalance in these substances. Some dhatus become vriddha, some dhatus become kshina, and some dhatus remain normally. Intelligent eating means being aware of this. Otherwise, you will have deficiency. If you are not taking certain, now in modern times, they are talking about this vitamin B12 deficiency. Some people don't take it. So there is a chaya of that vitamin, chaya of vitamin D. They are also following the same concept. So if you look at it that way, Ayurveda is very scientific and logical in its approach. This is the core concept. Vikaro dhatu vaishamyam samyam prakriti ruchyate. So vikaro dhatu vaishamya. Dhatu vaishamya means everything is not in samavastha. Some are vriddha, some are kshina, some are sama. When condition is like that in the body, we call that as dhatu vaishamya. And when there is dhatu vaishamya, there is vikara or disease. If dhatus are all in samavastha, kshinaha vardhaitavyaha, vriddhaha kshapaitavyaha, samaha palaniyaha. This is the whole crux. So the Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta is based on this concept. Now here the challenge is that how do I do a self-assessment of my own body? Most of the time you need the help of a Vaidya. But Ayurveda was taught to everybody so that everybody would have this intelligence. See, there are two ways in which you study Ayurveda. One is to become a doctor. Today, that is what people think. If you study Ayurveda, you have to become a Vaidya. But that was not the only reason why Ayurveda was studied in ancient times. Ayurveda was studied so that everybody would develop health intelligence. They could live their life more intelligently. They could eat food more wisely. They could develop a lifestyle that is healthy. Dharmartha kama mokshartham sarvairadhyedavya. For the purpose of attaining dharma, artha and kama and moksha, everybody has to study Ayurveda. Arakshartham rajanyehi. To protect the people. If you are having a chhatra dharma or a chhatra mindset, then you become health administrators. Arakshartham rajanyehi. If you have a brahmana set of mind, then you do it to become teacher, professor. You become an educator of Ayurveda. Vrityartham Vaishyahi. If you are having a Vaishya mentality, you want to make some money out of practice, then you become a practitioner. But if you want to improve your own health and lead a healthy life, then it doesn't matter what varna you belong. Anybody can study Ayurveda. This is what Caraka-Saṁhitā says. So very clearly spelled out. You can have you can either be focusing more on education, or you can be a health administrator, or you can be a practitioner, or you can simply lead a healthy, intelligent life by learning Ayurveda just for the sake of it. In whatever case, this concept is the basis. Sarvada Sarva Bhavanam. So, Samaha Palaniyaha Vardhaha Chapaitavyaha Kshinaha Vardhaitavyaha. So, if you watch your own body, the body itself is giving you Kurvatehi Ruchim Doshaha Viparita Samanayoho. Vruddha Kshinascha Bhuishtam Lakshayandi Abudhastuna. If you watch your own body, if you listen to your own body. So how do we know which dhatu is less in my body, which dhatu is more? By listening to your body. Kurvatehi ruchim doshaha viparita samanayo. The dosha itself creates the ruchi. You know, animals have this instinctively. When they eat, it is because of their physiological need. They don't eat for fun. They have that instinct. So humans can also, the more our mind is free from rajas and tamas, now the problem is we don't know whether our cravings are because the body is asking or your naughty mind is asking. Most of the time it is the mind, not the body. So it is said that when you continuously practice yoga, not just asanas, if you are involved in the practice of yoga, you develop this ability to avoid foods that are not good for you. It will instinctively happen. True yogis, you can see them just by their food habits. Their mind will automatically choose the good foods. If that is not happening, your practice of yoga is not well developed. It's very clear. It has been found that yogis can sense foods that are harmful and they have an aversion for it. Once I was traveling with a Vaidya to see patients, and on the way it became very late, so we did not have lunch. So finally, it was a remote area. We could, in Kerala, it is very difficult to get good vegetarian hotels, and the Vaidya was a pure vegetarian at that time. But because he also saw me, I was very hungry. He agreed to go to any hotel that is available, and we had food. Although we ordered vegetarian food, it was not really, pure. We could not be sure about all the dishes, how they are cooking and all that. And as we finished food, I had a nice meal. I felt relieved and went back into the vehicle. And after some time, the Vaidya started vomiting. And I looked at him and thought, what a weak man he is. He's a big Vaidya, but he's not able to. I have no problem. I'm sitting very happily, and this Vaidya is vomiting and in all trouble. He stopped the car, vomited a bit, and then suddenly became okay. That also I was surprised. He washed his face, and then he was very happy. And then he watched me, looked at me, and said, "You have to be careful. You are not in good health." I was shocked. I thought this man just vomited and I am sitting happily without any problem, and he's telling me that your health is not good. So when I asked him, he said, see, your body is not able to distinguish what is good and bad. What I did was my body just rejected all the food that we ate. My body told me that it is not good and everything vomited. But your body has lost that sensibility. So it is possible. That is the only way we can control. So if you try to force yourself to choose good food without practice of spirituality or yoga, then it is not going to be successful. There will be binge eating. People try to lose weight, they put 6 months hard effort. In the next 6 months, they will gain double the weight. Why? Because you cannot do this without also the practice of yoga, without also spirituality. You cannot bring about a change in our lifestyle. That is why Ayurveda is emphasizing also on spirituality, also on the practice of yoga. So if anybody wants to lose weight, I would tell them first, as you go into this, it's a good opportunity for you to change your whole lifestyle. Start meditating, start practicing yoga, so that your whole body is, refined and develops these finer sensibilities. In my understanding, after reading and looking, exploring Ayurveda, Ayurveda is a yogic science, in my opinion. It was not produced in laboratories by taking herbs, crushing it, putting into test tubes and finding. No. It was discovered through the tapas of the yogis. They were able to sense what is good, what is bad, and then it was consolidated by further experimentation and observation. That is how the knowledge of Ayurveda was systematized. It was not developed in laboratories. And that is why it is more deep and also sustainable, because it has come from a deep yogic state of mind. The insights are very profound. It is not based on bits and pieces. You just don't isolate a few chemicals from a plant and then make a generalization of how the plant is going to work on your body. You never know the whole thing. Whatever big laboratory you have, there are 30,000, 40,000 chemicals in a plant. We pick up a few of them. No instrument is available today which can study a plant completely. What they are doing is they will take a fraction, test whether it is active. If it is not active, they'll discard it, take another fraction, till few chemicals are isolated. And finally, they may get one chemical. But the plant is 30,000 chemicals, all working together in synergy. Today, we don't have any technology to understand that synergy. But our yogis, they found this through deep contemplation, observation, and thousands of years of hard work that we have today as a great legacy in the form of Ayurveda. We can, of course, study it scientifically also to some extent, but we must understand the origins are different. So they found that if you do this dinacharya, ruchucharya, it is all designed to give you this kurvatehi ruchim dosha viparita samanayo vruddha kshinascha bhuvishtam. If a dosha increases, it will give you a signal that you have to avoid this now. If you eat a lot of sweet, you will feel like stopping it. After some time, you may feel like eating some pungent, salty food also. You'll crave for the opposite. So this is a natural tendency. So on a day-by-day basis, if you watch your bodies, then you can use a Samanya Vishesh. This is the practical application of Samanya Vishesh Siddhanta. If you can use this in your life, only if you are able to assess the state of dhatus in our own bodies. And you know that, and then you know the properties of substances. Okay, today I need milk, tomorrow I don't need milk, because I have some excess kapha in my body. If I drink milk, kapha will increase. So today, milk is not good for me. Today, that is not the way nutritional counseling is done. Take 1 glass of milk every day, irrespective of whether kapha is increased or decreased in your body. There is no checking at all. People are given a standardized diet. Ayurveda says we have to watch our bodies and then decide. Only when you sit on the table for food, you have to think about it and then decide, on a day-by-day basis, we have to dynamically modify our diet. You may ask, how this is possible, how practical this is. Yes, there are challenges. The biggest challenge is in sensing our own body. So we will come back to that concept a little later. how to get into the framework in which we are able to assess the balance of our own dhatus. So is this verse clear? Any questions? Okay, there are some questions. Few questions are there. PVS Kumar is asking, what is the relationship between Rigveda and Ayurveda? Why is Ayurveda called? So Ayurveda is called Upaveda of both Rigveda and Atharva Veda. And I have also been intrigued by this. Why Rigveda and Atharva Veda? So for that we need to understand, in essence, what are the Vedas. Rigveda Rijas Tutau. Yajurveda Yaj Devata Archane, Dana Devata Archane. And Samaveda Samigaroti iti Samaha. Atharva Veda Natharvati iti Atharvaha. So actually the three Vedas together were called as Trayi. Atharva Veda is Chadurtho Veda, it has come later. So what are the three Vedas representing? Rig Veda represents our emotions, our will, Ichha Shakti. Yajurveda represents Kriya or Karma Shakti, Kriya Shakti. That is why Dana Devata Archana. Yajurveda is the Veda of action. Sama Veda is Samigaroti iti Sama, making everything equal. So it is representing Jnana. Because Sama Veda is representing Jnana, that is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedanam Sama Vedosmi. Amongst that, he is a Samagana Priya. Bhagavan is Samagana Priya. Because the song of equality. When you get Jnanam, everything becomes one. That is ultimate Jnana. Sami Karoti. You see the ultimate unity of the whole creation. When you get that, only that is Jnanam, according to our tradition. Anything that creates ideas of divisiveness and diversity is not true Jnanam. In true Jnanam, everything becomes one. Tatra ko moha ka shoka ekatvam anupashyata. It's only in that state. So, when we are in the balance of this is the deeper meaning of Soma Yaga also. That when our Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti are aligned together, they are in harmony. That is what we call as the Vedic way of life. And when we break from that harmony, then there is all this consequences. So Atharva Veda is called as a fourth Veda because not Harvati. Atharva Veda is the Prayashchit, Veda of Prayashchit. When we break from that harmony of Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti, Atharva Veda is there to bring us back to the right path. So Ayurveda is also the Veda of Prayashchit. That is why generally Ayurveda is said to be the Upanga of Atharva Veda. But then why Ayurveda is also called the Upanga of Rigveda? Because Ayurveda is not just Prayashchitta Veda, it is also the Veda of prevention. And when you say prevention, it is the Chitta Shuddhi that is necessary for prevention. That is why Rigveda is so important, because it is related to the Ichha Shakti, it is related to our emotions. Ayurveda says the root cause of all diseases, Ragadi Roga. Ragadi Rogan, Satatanu Shaktan, Asheshakaya Prasadana Sheshan, Outsukya Mohar, Ritidan Jakana, Yopurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So it is the Ragadi Rogas of the mind that is the root cause of all diseases. So if you look at preventive medicine of Ayurveda, it is more related to Rigveda. If you look at the curative medicine of Ayurveda, it is related to Atharva Veda. So if you are already sick, then Prayashchittam is needed. One of the Chikitsidam Vyadhiharam Pathyam Sadhanam Aushatham, Prayashchittam. One of the synonyms of Chikitsa or treatment is Prayashchittam. So that is the Atharva Veda, the way of Atharva Veda. Rig Veda is prevention. When you bring about Chitta Shuddhi, Ragadi Roga, Ragadi Roga, Sahaja Samula, Yenashu Sarve, Jagadopyapastha, Tameka Vaidyam Shirasa Namami, Vaidyagamatnyam Chapita Mahadin. So this is a Sahaja Vyadhi. So I can see, I'll answer questions one by one. So this is a very quick explanation for why Ayurveda is said to be the Upaveda of both Rigveda and Atharvaveda. There is no contradiction. If you understand the whole deeper meaning of Vedas, then we can get this understanding. Prayojanam of Ayurveda is, it is Swasthadura Parayanam. Ayurveda is Swasthadura Parayanam. Swasthaparayanam and Aduraparayanam. So Swasthaparayanam is emotional stability, emotional maturity is the best way to prevent disease. And emotional maturity comes as we evolve spiritually. It is an indicator of our spiritual growth. More the emotional maturity, more spiritually developed we are. More spiritually developed we are, more we will be able to follow Ayurveda. Ayurveda is for a spiritual society. That is why it is a misfit today. As long as people don't want spirituality, people want to live a life of indulgence, Ayurveda will have its only limited acceptance. As people turn towards a spiritual life, a life that of self-development and evolution, then Ayurveda will have more currency in this world. This is my understanding. So there is no point in competing. Creating more Ayurvedic injections or surgeries is not the way. Doing so much of transplant, surgery, everybody in their lifetime now we have to replace our organs. Ayurveda says you can live a life where your heart will function without any problem for 80, 90 years. It's very easy to do that if you follow a healthy life. We don't need so many transplants. Now people are in queue waiting for transplant and it has become a big business. So that is where if you don't follow this life, because we are working against the laws of nature, then we have to face the consequences. The more we violate natural ways of living, the more illnesses will come, more technology will be required, more hospitals will be required, and we will spend most of our life trying to live. Our effort today is to just preserve life. We are not able to use life for our higher purpose. So first, as they say, first half of your life, you will destroy your health to make money. And second half of your life, you will spend all that money to get back your health. And it will never happen. So this is the irony of human life today. So transplanting more organs, it may look like a development, but if you look at the whole parameter of quality and higher level of health, more requirement of transplants, more surgeries, more heart diseases, it's not a good sign. The metrics are very, very disturbing. Hayam dukkham anagadam. Prevent the sorrow before it arises. That is the mantra of our tradition. Don't try to find a solution after creating the sorrow. Hayam dukkham anagadam. The dukkha that has not yet come, that is where you must act. Remove the sorrow before it arrives. So unless society awakens into such a state of mind, there won't be clear appreciation of Ayurveda. So that is why Rig Veda is giving us that great vision of prevention. And then we say Atharva Veda also. If at all you make a mistake, don't worry, there is some solution. So solutions are also needed. I always imagine fire extinguishers are there, you can keep it in your house, you can keep it in your office. Yes, yes, the economic burden of disease is very huge. Now, why do we keep a fire engine ready, fire extinguishers ready? Does that mean that there should be fire so that we can use these fire extinguishers? No. Nobody would agree that let me put my house on fire because my whole life I've never used a fire extinguisher. I've spent so much money on fire extinguishers to make use of it. There should be fire. Nobody will think like that. Similarly, just because medical science has developed the technology to transplant organs doesn't mean, but that is the way society is moving today. The, the whole medical industry wants people to get sick so that they can transplant organs. Otherwise, the business will not run. So, technologies are needed. Let us have all the advanced technologies. Let us be even able to transplant our head. We also imagined not only human head transplant, plus across species transplant. We have had science fiction stories in our tradition. Ashvinau deva bhishajau yajnavaha viti smurtau yajnasya hi siraschinnam punastabhyam samahranam. So whenever the yajna, after when a yajna is conducted, the siras of the pashu is cut and Ashwinis would come and fit it back again. So they also thought about such feats. So it is good to have all this technology, but it's very important. So I hope now the concept of how Ayurveda emerged from Rigveda and Atharva Veda gives you a good idea about the scope of prevention and treatment, and how Ayurveda is inseparably linked to the Vedas. So we call this, when we slip away from the Vedic way of life, of when our Ichha, Jnana and Kriya Shaktis are not working in harmony, we call that as Pratnyaparadha. Pratnyaparadha is the root cause of all disease. Dhi dhriti smriti vibrashta karma yat kurude ashubham pratnyaparadham tham vidyat sarva dosha prakopanam. So next question is, in this sensibility to the type of food we eat, Atharvani Vidya you mentioned yesterday. Yeah, Atharvani Vidya is the most superior because it is all based on self-healing. So when you lead very conscious, self-responsible lives, you don't need a doctor. There is a sloka, a Subhashita, which says, Parishramo mitaharo bhugada vashvina viva tavanadritya naivaham vaidyamanyam samashraye. I will not go and meet a Vaidya. I don't want to see a Vaidya. They say an apple a day keeps a doctor away. What we said, no, it's not so simple. Parishrama and Mitahara will keep a doctor away. That is our concept. Simply eat, it's not so easy. You go under an apple tree and spend your whole day eating apple, and being lazy will not prevent a doctor, your visit to the doctor. Parishramaha mitaharaha. They are like Bhugada Ashwini Sutau. They are like the Ashwini Devas who have come on this earth. Only two things you need: good physical activity and moderate food. Eat according to your requirement. If you just follow these two things, Vaidyamanyam, na Vaidyamanyam Samashraye, you will not need to meet any other physician. So that self-empowerment is there. Yes, Satmya, that is the problem. Satmyam, Ahita Satmyam is there and Hita Satmyam is there. We all develop what is called as Ahita Satmyam. Ahita Ahara becomes Satmyam for us. When Ahita Ahara is Satmyam for us, our body is spending a lot of energy to, that is how it becomes Satmya. So we are not able to reach higher levels of health. If you are regularly eating Ahita Ahara, you may be able to avoid disease sometimes, but you will not get higher levels of health. Aprakampya bhavantihi kramena apachita dosha kramena upachita guna. You have to slowly take away all the bad habits in your life, even if you are accustomed to it. Because I'm used to a certain way of life, my body has adapted to it. My body will use extra energy to keep me alive and health, free from disease. But then the body reserves. It is like running on reserve petrol. If you are having your life of ahita satmyam, so satmya means that which your body adapts to. Atmana saha sheteti satmyam. So you can have ahita satmyam or hita satmyam. Something asatmya, even hita can be asatmya. When you are starting a new food, even though it is healthy for you, your body will reject it. You will get allergy kind of thing, even for good things. So Ayurveda has a whole scheme how to slowly withdraw what is ahita and how to introduce what is hita. So that is the way. So just because something is satmya for us does not mean we should follow it. We have to ask whether it is hita satmyam or ahita satmyam. If it is ahita satmyam, we have to slowly withdraw it. And Ayurveda has given a whole de-addiction schedule, how to de-addict ourselves from. It is coming in a later chapter, so I am not discussing it here. Yeah, cats and animals, they do that. They are based on instinct. Humans need to develop intelligence and intuition. So animals don't have free will, we have free will. So we have been freed from the instinct so that we can think freely. Nature has given us the freedom to be responsible. So instead of that, we have intellect and we have intuition also. And we don't have to lose all our instinct also. That is because of the human way of living. Even in many tribal societies, you can still see a lot of instinct is there. But this is the thing, as you come out of instinct, your intellect becomes more prominent. But it is possible that we can have all the three. In my opinion, a human being to make full use of his or her life should have an ideal combination of instinct, intellect, and intuition. Because knowledge is complex. Through one means alone, science is trying to understand everything through intellect. But all scientists use instinct and intuition also. They don't acknowledge it. Even a doctor uses a lot of instinct and intuition to diagnose. It's not that everything is diagnosed through machines or objective, not through intellect. We cannot avoid all the three. So animals use only instinct. Humans don't have such a powerful instinct, but we have a much, much more powerful intelligence and then a very great capacity for deep intuition. So we don't have to go back to become animals again with the fear of losing our instincts. We have to go from animal to human to the divine. Manirbhava janaya daivyam janam. That is what the Veda says. Manurbhava, first become a human and then create the divine race. So we have to look forward, upward. So we have come out of animal life. Preserve the good in the animal life. But we are becoming asuras, demons, not deva. That is the problem. So if we lose instinct, we lose intuition, we go by intellect and ego, then we get what is called as asuri sampat. I think somebody's mic is on. If anybody has switched on their mic by mistake, please switch off. Right. So is that clear? I think I answered all the questions. We'll go on to further definitions. So then, Samanya and Vishesha is again explained further. Because the first definition is not sufficient. Sarvada sarva bhavanam samanyam vriddhi karanam. See, this means this is that everything very similar, exactly similar. Sometimes this is called a dravya samanya, like blood for blood, meat for meat, fat for fat, bone for bone. Now, if I'm told that I have calcium deficiency, my bone is brittle, now I cannot ask people, you go to the graveyard and take some bones and eat it. No, it's not possible. So, samanyam cannot be exactly dravya samanya. Then we would all become cannibals, eat the dhatus of other people around us. So, samanyam ekattvakaram visheshastu prataktva tulyarthata hi samanyam visheshastu viparyeyaha. So even if two things are dissimilar, we can see ekatvam there if the gunas are similar. So if my bone is weak, I don't need to eat bone, I can drink milk also, because the gunas are similar. So that this samanya is what we normally use. If you have anemia, you don't go and bite iron, an iron rod, you will only break your teeth. You cannot get that iron in your system. On the other hand, there are so many fruits, vegetables that you can use. And Ayurveda has made such. So that is tulya samanyam egatvakaram. That is, even though it is not exactly similar, we can see the similarity there before because of commonness of properties. So I can use dates. Dates is good for anemia. I can use yam, and if I prepare it using curds, and for iron absorption you need some sour substances. So Ayurveda has prepared so many such combinations, food, medicines, which enable us to increase hemoglobin. Another option is to drink the blood of other animals, which we have not advised. So this is the second concept of samanya. We don't need to always, but meat sometimes we directly meat, or we can also give protein. So that is why Ayurveda was able to advise vegetarian alternatives also, because of guna samanya. So we can say that samanya can be dravya samanya, guna samanya, and karma samanya. This is one way of looking at it. We'll have to come back to these verses again tomorrow to look at more deeper meanings. I'm just giving some gross. There are some people who opine that such a classification doesn't exist also, but still it is very practically useful understanding this way. So if I have some deficiency in my body, the first thing I should ask is how should I replace it? Should I take the exact substance or something very close? The third thing is tulyarthadahi samanyam visheshastu viparya. Even if there is no similarity when you look from outside, if that substance is able to produce the result that we desire, tulyarthata. By artha, so here even homeopathic theory will come. Even if it is similar, if it is producing the result that we want, we can still consider it as samanya, karma samanya. So I am doing some activity and my fat will come down. So there is no similarity actually between, or dissimilarity between that action and fat. They are totally two things. One is action, but in net result is that your fat in your body will reduce. So we can consider that as vishesh. On the other hand, if you're simply sitting, fat in your body will increase. So that is tulyarthata. Another thing is we also use this for samanya megatvakaram. When there are multiple things, there are cows and dogs and lions, we are able to identify all the cows as having cowness. That cowness is samanya. So all the cows we would categorize into, this is very much used for identifying properly the medicines before giving it to patients. We have to look for Samanya and Vishesha. Something which looks like milk may not be milk. All the, what is a sadharana dharma of a particular substance should be there, found. So, Lakshana is called avyapti, ativyapti, asambhava doshatraya vimukto, asadharana dharma pragashagam lakshana. So, every entity in this universe has its own asadharana dharma. So, when there is a samanya of asadharana dharma, we say that they all belong to the same class. So all apples we consider as apple because all of them possess the same qualities of apple. But then if you look closely, you can have so many apples: Himachal apple, American apple, European apple. They're all slightly different because each has its jati lakshanas. So these concepts of Samanya and Vishesha are used to classify substances, identify substances, and choose the right substance to bring about the Dhatu Samya. We discussed earlier also that Dhatu Samya Kriya Chokta Tantrasyasya Prayojanam. The purpose of this Shastra is Dhatu Samya Kriya. And towards the Dhatu Samya Kriya, we are So Abhijit Sinha is asking, Samanyam Ekatvakaram. Samanyam Ekatvakaram means giving you the Ekatva Buddhi. Even when things are separate, we get the Ekatva Buddhi because of similarity. Tulyarthata is there is no way you can see the similarity, but the result is similar. So Samanyam Ekattvakaram means if I have 5 cows are distinct. There is a prathakta between the cows. All are not, but we call all of them as cow because we have Ekatva Buddhi. By Ekatva Buddhi, we are telling this is a cow. If I show somebody a dog, whatever species it is, we'll be able to identify that it is a dog. A dog can be differentiated from a fox. A fox can be differentiated from a wolf. Even though there is a big population, each entity can be distinctly understood as representing the same genus. So Samanyam Ekattvakaram is in that sense of same genus. Tulyarthada hi Samanyam. So today this much is enough about Samanya Vishesha. We will move forward and I want you to think about this, and tomorrow when we come back we will again revisit Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta. This may require repeated discussion for us to get into a deeper insight that we can apply, in a practical situation. So generally today what we will conclude about Samanya Vishesha is that you can consider these 3 definitions. One way of understanding it, we will discuss in the next class more carefully about here. One is exact similarity, blood for blood. If there is a dissimilarity, there can be a problem. That is why blood transfusion, when we are doing blood transfusion today, we have to match, is it not? Samanya. What is a group? Group A, B, O. A, B, O, 3 groups are there. Then there is positive and negative. A plus, A positive, B positive, O positive, O negative. So there is a Samanya Vishesha here. I'm sure we all know that today because blood donation has become a big social service. So we know that if there is a Vishesha in the blood groups, their blood will clot and the person will die. We can do blood transfusion only between Samana people. This is used also in transplants. There has to be a histological matching between 2 individuals. If the histology is not matching, that means there is a Vishesha. So if there is a donor of a kidney to another person, you cannot simply take anybody's kidneys and donate it. There will be a strong immune reaction and their body will reject it because there is a vishesha. If there is a histological matching, then only the transplant is possible. So Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta is a very scientific way of understanding the nature of things and applying it in a very rational way. So while Dravya Samanya is the best Samanya, it is not always practical to do it, because we cannot replace substances with exactly the same substance. We do it sometimes. Blood transfusion is an exception. Organ transplant is also similarly Dravya Samanya, the exact organ is replaced. But if there is a blood loss, we don't always go for a blood transfusion. We use substances which are similar. So that is called Guna Samanya. And in some cases, we don't need to use any substance. By changing behavior and action, we can increase or decrease a substance. So if the person has less fat in the body, less weight, then by resting, not doing much activity, they can gain weight. On the other hand, people who have excess weight, they can do more physical activity and then reduce their weight. So is this clear? Dravya, Guna and Karma. It is not accepted widely. There are other sophisticated interpretations for these verses also, but if we try to discuss everything at a time, it can be a bit confusing. So I'd like to stop here. Any questions?
Sir, can you please explain the Karma Samanya once again?
Yeah, Karma Samanya is that it will, see, if I want to increase some substance in the body and I'm able to do an action which will lead to that increase. So by karma I am achieving it, not by giving any dravya, not by giving a dravya which is samana, a guna which is samana, or a karma which is samana. By applying any of these three, I can bring about, see, our goal is very simple. Samaha palaniyaha, vruddhaha chapaitavyaha, chinaha vardhaitavyaha. That is my goal. So now, if there is a vriddhi of something, I can think how I should do it. That is my next question. Am I going to use a dravya, exactly similar dravya, or I am going to use a dravya with similar gunas, or I am just going to give some karma? Now in diabetes, there is a lot of increase of medo dhatu, lot of increase of blood sugar, rasa dhatu in the system. So instead of giving medicines, what Ayurveda has also said is that Yojananam shatam yayad khanedva shalilasayam. The treatment is to walk 100 yojanas. By the time you walk 100 yojanas, your diabetes will be under control. Or khanedva salilasayam, dig a big pond. By the time you finish digging the pond, you may even get cured of diabetes. So this is karma samanya. Sorry, this is karma vishesha. Because this karma is vishesha, is again antagonistic to medas, medo dhatu. It is working opposite to medo dhatu. So this is the treatment prescribed in Ayurveda for diabetes. And today scientists have found that if you get diabetes, if you take medicine, immediately you will become a diabetic for life. On the other hand, if you change your lifestyle, reduce your weight, you may even get cured of diabetes. So this is called the direct trial. Pranayama, everything can be included. Even pranayama is good for reducing excess weight. When you are doing good yoga practice, when you do, see, good temple priests, tantris, they are usually very thin because they are working with their pranic energy. A physical body is very limited. So Some big tantris told me also, you look at a tantri and his body structure, you can know whether he's genuine or not. Because if you are really using your pranic energy, then they will all be your physical structure will be very different. Of course, some prakriti differences may be there. Some people may be physically a little bit, but definitely if somebody is very obese and not balanced, then we can know they are not doing proper pranayama. Because all the kshetra pratishtha, everything is based on the pranic energy, prana pratishtha as they call it. Every day the tantri is infusing pranic energy into the deity. So he has to be a sadhaka, otherwise it will not work out. And that brings a lot of physical changes in the body. So karma samanya, karma vishesha is there. So on the other hand, if you are extremely emaciated, weak, then Ayurveda says rest is needed. That is karma samanya. When you do rest, so you cannot say that karma is exactly the same as that substance, but it produces that effect. So we call it as karma. Karma samanya doesn't really exist. It is an inferred thing. You cannot perceive that samanyam easily. So this is how the commentators also explain, and we are using these three things. I am finding it very helpful in practice. That is why when a patient comes to me, my goal is immediately to find out what to be increased, what to be decreased, what not to be disturbed. Very simple. This is my diagnosis. Then I must find out with what can I decrease, what can I increase the substance, and what should I do to keep the. Yes, dravya is the substratum. No, Samanya Vishesha is not mentioned like that. In languages, yes. Maybe languages, yes. But we are talking about Samanya Vishesha from Vaisheshika Darshana. And Ayurveda has explained it in a practical, clinical way, not in the way of Vaisheshika Darshana. Although it is used from Vaisheshika Darshana, we are explaining it in a way that is clinically useful. And we are going to study the definition of dravya shortly. It is the substratum of both guna and karma. Yatrashrada karma guna karanam samavaya tad dravyam. So we will study that very shortly. So for everything we will need to use some dravya, but we may be operating at the level of dravya samanya or dravya vishesha or karma samanya. So coming back to conclude, when you keep monitoring your body to find out which dhatus in your body are vruddha, which are chena, which are sama, then create a formula of action, of food, of diet, whatever is needed to make sure that the vruddha substance dhatus are made sama by chapana, and the chena dhatus are made sama by vardhana. And for that, you have to decide. See, if I am having mamsa dhatu chaya, if I am a non-vegetarian, Ayurveda does not prohibit non-vegetarian when it is required. I mentioned this already. Kama himsa is to be avoided. Dharma himsa is okay. So if you are ill, you can have, mamsa supaha or mamsa rasa as they call it. Maybe required. Now, but if you are a vegetarian, this is dravya samanya. Then you say, I cannot eat mamsa rasa. Then we may say you take instead mudga supaha, which is also, or mudga yushaha, which is also protein rich and can, because of guna samanya, you can use that instead of mamsa rasa. And then you are asked to, taking this diet, you are asked to do some physical exercises to build muscles. That is also karma samanya. So when you have such a program together, you can. So this is called sarcopenia. Muscle loss is something which happens through aging. A lot of people have muscle loss. It's a clinical condition. It leads to a lot of disability and problems, especially as you age. It's something that needs to be addressed. And you need a very balanced diet for that. So in this way, Caraka-Saṁhitā, there is only one text with the commentary. You can get it from Chaukamba, Varanasi. Many Chaukambas are there. So I will show you the book that I am using. Just a minute. So this is the book. Can you see? It's just one book with the commentary. Whatever I am showing, on the online version is there in this book. So I am usually reading this book. I don't read from online unless for such classes. So you can get, this is Chaukamba Publications. Even in Delhi, they have an office. You can Google and find and get all the contacts. You can buy this. Okay, so with that, our session today. We'll meet again tomorrow. And we will continue a little bit more discussion about Samanya Vishesha and how to apply it practically before we move forward. Namaste.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Pranam.
Thank you, sir. Namaste.
Thank you, sir.
स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। रामकृष्णाय ते नमः।